Sorry about just now, dear. That was my plumber. He promised to fix my sink 2 months ago. He was so embarrassed when he saw me that he's coming later today. So, oh yes, I was telling you about Harry. He took a long time to get over it. She'd broke his heart. He'd have done anything for her. Nothing was too much. Clothes? She couldn't get enough of them. Wore 'em once and then they never crawled out the cupboard again. She went all over the world on holidays. Not with him, mind you. He had to pay for her trips. She used to go with her friend Kirsty. Or that's what she'd tell everyone, if you believe that. And you should have seen the rings on her fingers. There was enough diamonds and emeralds to buy a 4-bedroom house in Wimbledon, which she got, but not with her money. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead. It was nearly the death of Harry, the way he had to work so hard to satisfy her. He never could, though. He loved her. He was devoted to her. She had him just where she wanted. You couldn't say nothing bad about her in front of him. He wouldn't have believed it anyway, and no one wanted to upset him. He's just too nice. But we all knew it was going to happen, and of course it did. She was a leech. Sucked him dry of his money, his love, his self-respect, and then she dumped him. He came home from work, late as usual after doing overtime for her, and she was gone. Left him in an empty house. Gave him 2 weeks to get out. She'd found this fella, Jack Manning, that was his name, about 20 years older than her, and he was no better than he ought to be. I met him, not deliberate like. I'd been having a nosy around Selfridges and was waiting for a number 13 bus when the two of them turned up in a cab. While he was paying, she stood there all primmed up like she was a movie star, just about to walk on the red carpet. But she didn't see me. Caught up in her own dream world she was, and she would have probably ignored me if she had. Mind you, I say dream world. Well, I don't like to admit it, but she was no fool. God help any man what fell for her. Anyway, he came over to her, and then they walked off arm in arm like they was a celebrity couple. Him, Mr. Big, and she, the actress. I say Mr. Big, but he's tiny, and she towered over him, especially with her high heels. But she knows what she's doing, and it didn't surprise me that she sucked all the money out of him too, ready to move on to someone else who could give her more. He was a fat, mean-faced little man, and his hair, it was, well, Mr. Big had a few wispy flecks that he'd grew very long, combed over and greased down to try and cover his bald head. And there, in Oxford Street, the wind blew and it all shot up in the air. It did make me laugh. But she didn't care. He was loaded and he had no one else to spend his money on. My friend Atty knew him from when he lived next door in a 2 up, 2 down, when they was kids in Hackney. She said he was so dippy about her that she wouldn't have been surprised that when her that wants everything purred, he was daft enough to roll over and the £50 notes would fall out of his pockets. That little love nest didn't even last a year. But what a year that was, according to Hattie. A month after I saw him in Oxford Street, they was married. She'd got her hooks well into him by then. He was so smitten he didn't see it coming. I felt for him, even though I didn't like him. Not that I knew him personal like, only from what I heard. They went to Barbados for their honeymoon for a couple of weeks, and it was all lovey-dovey. But when they came back, she started. Complained to the neighbours that he beat her, and once even, she said he pushed her down the stairs. She was a conniving little bitch, and made sure she had the cuts and bruises to prove what she was saying. None of it was true. Anyway, she was bigger than him, and, if anything, she was the one what could do the beating up. This went on for a couple of months, and then one day she showed the woman next door her black eye and a bloodied nose. went in there sobbing and in a terrible state, saying that she couldn't take it no more and didn't know what to do. Oh, the poor little dear, don't you feel sorry for her? She could have got an Oscar for her acting. Well, the neighbour called the police because she didn't want to get him into trouble, if you can believe that. Anyway, they come and took him away for questioning. He denied everything, but no one believed him. And the long shot is that he got banged up. It was all in the local papers. As you can guess, she just wanted to get what she could out of him and didn't care how she got it. Harry was well rid of her. It turned out that Jack had investments in Spain, Cyprus, and loads of places in Eastern Europe. Hattie told me all this in strict confidence. She works for Jack Manning's solicitor. Small world, isn't it? She played the loving wife. They would always be out together, meeting local government officials, business associates, some who was very unsavoury, and what he called fixers. Hattie said it was all business. There was no socialising with friends, neither of them had any. Right pair they was. Anyway, didn't take long to realise just how much dough Jack had, and that she now knew all his business connections and fixers. She saw her way to take advantage of this. She wanted everything, the greedy little cow. Somehow, but I'm sure you already worked it out, she wheedled her way into getting Jack to put all his assets into their joint names. When Hattie told me this, I thought what a fool Jack was. But he was ravenous for her. Sex is what done it. There, I've said it. She gave him what he'd never had, in little chewy doses, and he couldn't get enough. She filed for divorce. The judge took her side, what with all Jack's so-called beatings, and she got the house, half his business assets, and Lord knows what else. A right nasty piece of work. What do you call those insects that bite the male's head off after they've had sex? Oh, you know. Well, she's one of them, isn't she? But she got her comeuppance. It turned out that Jack was heavily in debt to the mob, his so-called business associates. One thing you don't do is screw with them. So Madam had to sell the house, the jewellery, and hand over all the financial interest that she had connived so hard to get. She was left with nothing. Just like what she'd done to Harry and Jack. I see her going down the Labour Exchange a few weeks back. It gave me a really warm glow. I'm not proud of myself, but, I felt like it made my day. I bet Jack had a right laugh too, even though he was behind bars. Anyway, dear, it's been lovely talking to you, but I have to go. Harry and me are splashing out tonight with a few friends at the Ritz. Celebrating our first anniversary, would you believe? Ta-ra!